Good afternoon, sorry. Welcome to the session 12 of block 3, where we are looking into the physical evidence. Today we are looking into a term called physical evidence, where we look into what is the role of physical evidence, what are the things that goes into making physical evidence a critical factor. A term called atmospherics would be related to the retail sector. How does it pan out in terms of creating more customer footfalls, attracting? We'll also look into visual merchandising. We'll also look into how to do something called retail store space management, looking into the space as well as the inventory levels. Let's go back to an experience of your shopping experiences. I'm sure you have had a lot of experiences of visiting various kind of stores. Now, if I tell you, if you were to work out, what is the greatest experience in terms of a shopping, experience that you had visiting a particular superstore or a marketing complex or any kind of a mall, you will be, if you see your answers, if you dig deep, you will find that okay, the grocery store nearby was not a, though you buy a lot of products, may not be a product, may not be a desire to go quite often. Rather, you would like to go to a place where you get an AC, you get well laid out merchandise, your products are well laid out, where there is a good display counter, where you have something like a kiosk which is available, some kind of a structured way of looking at things. Sounds familiar? So that's what is atmospherics is all about. When you talk about the surroundings, which is creating a kind of a positive or a negative vibe, it can go both words, can actually impact the shopping behavior of a consumer. So what is that for a retailer in this case? Why would a retailer would look into a link between shopping behavior and the factors that the environmental factors, or basically, if I may say so, the store environment factors, which they should be looking out. Now, what are the things that they should be looking forward to when we are looking into the environmental factors, which we call as atmospherics? Now, the example that I shared is why do customers like visiting a particular store or do not like visiting? Somewhere down the line, the underlying philosophy lies in terms of an experience. Now, you know that in modern retail or in organized retail, the effort is for the by the retailers is to offer a very an environment which is customer centric. When I say customer centric, or customer who is coming to those outlets, they should feel happy, they should feel elated, they should not feel pressurized, they should be given the freedom to choose whatever products and services that they want to get from you. So somewhere down the line, all these dovetails into making or curating the entire, not only in terms of products or merchandise, but also in terms of the environment that you create. Are you creating a congenial atmosphere for the customer to feel more comfortable to come in, spend time, and make their purchases, which could be a satisfying kind of a shopping experience. Now, when you talk about these kind of parameters, the atmospheric parameters are basically the physical characteristics that the retail store is having in terms of, let's say, the layout of the store, how are products arranged, how is the lighting environment, what is the kind of colors that they use, are they using any kind of they could be using lighting which could be very conducive, very bright lights or dull lights, or you could talk in terms of something which is in terms of visually appealing kind of fixtures within the store. So it may help you to generate more interest and you like being there, and there's sufficient amount of space to move around, and there's a sufficient amount of space to sit and watch things or look into the categories. Now, according to the product category also, the amount of space that needs to be given is also given a lot of importance for the customer to spend, because understand, as I told you before, Atmospherics deals in terms of for the customer engagement point of view. So how you engage the customer, not only in terms of the products that you are displaying, but also in terms of making them feel comfortable. So many things gets planned in terms of the planning the importance of bringing the atmospheric to the customers. Does that require planning at the retailer level? Perhaps yes, because because the image of the store depends upon what you are curating. So you have to plan for it. First of all, what is the identity of the brand? So for example, today we talk about McDonald's, that the golden M, it signifies that store. Wherever that store, from a distance one can understand. That's a kind of an attractive point which pulls the customer to those stores, right? So similarly, when you look into your atmospherics not only looks into the internal but also the external ways. For example, when you walk into a Titan store or a Titan store, or you walk into let's say a PC Jewelers, right? They curate certain things to create more attractive proposition in the minds of the customer. So somewhere down the line, the store image becomes a kind of if it is well engaging with the customers, it also helps in brand positioning and also helps to create a kind of footfall by attracting customer to those stores. Now, it also helps the customers in the environment also looks into how which kind of customers are coming, what kind of products they are buying. Suppose they're buying staples, what should be the kind of products that needs to be displayed, how it is to be displayed, which will be very different from what will, let's say, if you're looking to apparels, electronic gadgets. We're looking into jewelry, for example, jewelry, perfume, leather bags, shoes, footwear. Now, different product categories need to be planned in a when we talk about planograms or when we look into merchandise planning. Not only look into the breadth of the merchandise, but also in terms of atmospheres, we look into how to make it convenient for the customer to go through various product categories. Then you may create departments, sub departments within the store, so that if you see Walmart and all that, they're huge. So they do this category planning in a manner where which is tuned to for the convenience of the customers. In India, we do not have such large, but the malls are large enough. But if there are departmental stores, the supermarkets, they could be running into a lakh square feet. So how do you manage the people who come in? How you make that from a convenience point of view, convenience point of view, you ensure that the products are properly displayed. There's the proper signage which is indicating. Some of the stores could be multi-layered, it could be having multiple layers. So different departments could look into different kind of product displays or merchandise display. If you walk into a Fab India store, you may find that the standalone store may be having, let's say, the general products at the bottom, at the ground level. The G plus one would have something on for the kids and the females, for the male segment. So you can categorize according to the target customer, or you can do it according to your, let's say, in terms of product categories, in terms of groceries, in terms of jewelry, in terms of leather goods, in terms of electronic. So lot many things can be done so that the customer is able to navigate through the retail store properly, giving them the ease of searching, right? They can spend the right time with the right kind of merchandise, and can also ensure they can have better conversions. Because end of the day, what we are looking at, that these people should be happy enough to spend and buy. If you are giving if you suppose your retail store is good, you are having good merchandise, but it's very cramped, it's very chaotic, and products are not properly laid out, people are crossing each other, right? And what we call as a customer traffic within the store, and they are bumping into each other, and the store is not properly managed, it gives lot of anxiety and panic situation. And as a result, what happens, they feel hassled. And perhaps even after having a big name or having a good product category, you may not be able to meet the requirements of the customer. The customers might feel apathetic towards uh, the store. So for the retailer, how to put the products categorization, how to use the space within the store, ensuring that there is a proper flow of customer traffic without any hassles, and ensuring that the exit also is very, very, you're making your payments is pretty smooth. Now, this is a process which needs to be curated by the retailer in terms of ensuring that the customer is able to cater to the customer experience, what we call as the customer experience, and the experience goes a mile to create more store patronage. What is patronage? Where the customer feels happy to come back to that particular store again and again. Now, the experience part, yes, you can dole out some kind of incentives, you can do some sales promotion exercise, all that is fine. But end of the day, this experience, if it is a bad experience, despite having some of the best products and merchandise, things can go awry. So as a retailer, you need to ensure, or as a store manager or the person who is handling that department, they need to be sensitive enough to monitor. Because understand, in retail counter, you don't need to sell anything. It's mostly displayed in such a manner that the customer should be left free to choose. They have the freedom to choose. They get a lot of varieties. So the more the variety, they will be purchase, they'll be searching on their own. Yes, some of them do search online and then they come to the offline, they ask for specific things. So that's when your manual intervention also needs to take care of it. Now, if you're having huge stores, you also need to have checks and balances. You need to have monitoring mechanisms in terms of RFID, security, so that there is no pilferage of any or shoplifting issues which can take place, because all this can create chaos. How, where, and when would, what kind of products, what kind of processes, what kind of facilities are you providing within the store is also very, very important. But when you look into the various components of retail atmospherics, we are looking into four basic area, as you can see it here. It covers the external part of it, which basically talks about the storefront, the facilities, the parking lots, and so on and so forth. And what kind of notification in terms of signages are you offering so that the customer is well laid? See, these days, even if, for example, if you are having a store which is having physically disabled, you'll find that in international markets, the parking lots for disabled is very, very sorted out. Nobody else can park there. They go to that level. Secondly, they provide a gangway for the physically able. Even if somebody is in a wheelchair, can go in and can navigate through the store. Which means what, you have to have proper either elevator system, or you have gangways by which the person can be taken. The store staff can help, lending helping hand to these people to, while shopping, while you are, if you are physically disabled, you can always help them. So it creates a lot of empathy from the retailer side to empathize with the customer, and customer feels elated. So, and what floor has what kind of merchandise? I want to go for electronic goods. What kind of signages are you providing? What is the way to the facilities? So from the storefront, I need to know where to park my vehicle, where to store my, where can I collect the trolley, right? All those things can be looked into in terms of storefront. Storefront, of course, also has a design component built into it. If you are having a retail chain, the same chain of stores should look the same, consistent throughout. Now that needs to be taken care of in terms of external part. Now going inside the store, there is another part of atmosphere, because that's another environment that you are creating. So we look into the physical fixtures, the kind of color combination, the lighting, the product display, everything. And third part is where you look into the store layout. We'll talk about this in a little bit more. Store layout is basically, as I told you, if you want to have customers coming into the store, if you're having higher footfalls, how do you manage that customer traffic? It deals with that. And last but not the least is the visual merchandising, that for your merchandise to be showcased, to be curated properly, you also need notifications. You also need information made available, whether it is in form of information kiosk, or through through display counters, or through a glass counter, or whatever displays that you do, that needs to be properly planned out. And these are the components which help you to talk in terms of your basically define your retail atmospherics, which is basically helps in shaping the customer retail experience going forward. Now let's look into the first component of retail atmospherics, that is external atmospherics. Here I've given you a snapshot of different kind of retail outlets where you can having a kirana store, you have an apparel store, you have electronic store, there is a cafe, Starbucks. As you can see, each one has its own way of attracting. You find some of them are very well laid out, and it gives you a very a different feel when you look into this. And also it serves as a point of attraction that such a store is available. These are the products which are there, and if you have seen the signages which are given, it very clearly indicates what kind of a store it is. So from a distance, people might get, if they use the digital, the basically the logos are used in a manner which is consistently done in the same formats that you do in your marketing communication, which we saw yesterday. So there has to be certain amount of consistency. There cannot be two different kind of color schemes. The logo is looking different from whatever was seen in the advertisement. No, it has to look the same. And this store, wherever you are having it, in how many stores you are having, it should be consistent. Now, Starbucks would essentially, ideally, should look the same wherever, whether it's in the New York, whether it's in India or any other place. Similarly for the apparel stores. As you come to the Kirana stores, yes, there can be variability in that, because the kind of customers who visit also matters in terms of how the particular look and feel of the retail outlet should be. Now, each one ideally should be displaying what kind of a store it is. Of course, the store name is, if it is important, if it is has got a brand which is image which is getting accepted, obviously demonstrate that. You have to create whatever logos that you have created with respect to your brand, they need to be displayed. There is a visual display of that, and it should be uncluttered, and it should give you a very uh, a feel good factor. When you look at it, it should be very attractive. The color combination, you must have seen, the color combination plays a very important role. There are some colors we get attracted to. Bright colors attract our attention, because end of the day, if you remember, I told you that it extends in the same process that we had talked about in promotion. How you are among all the stores, how this particular store is visually attractive, which means what, it should attract the attention first, then get on to creating an interest. So one is looking at an Indian terrace store, okay, what is there, then you would look into what is being displayed there. You look at the Bata, you look at the product which is displayed there, that is okay, new arrivals, you find that okay, new things which have come into this, you start looking. So the window dressing that they do in terms of creating that urge in people or the interest in people, and that propels them towards a desire to enter. So the external atmospheric is almost like a kind of a hook that you are creating to pull your customers to that store. So retailers spend a lot of money in creating unique kind of store images. Sometimes you must have seen they create very culturally driven. For example, Kaveri handicrafts in Bangalore and all that. You find that they make you feel like you get a feel of sandalwood, because sandalwood is a major thing, right? If you go to any handloom stores, the kind of motifs, the kind of designs that are used is properly displayed in order to create more traction with the customers in terms of their attractiveness. Let's now look into the internal atmosphere. So once you've been able to draw the attention of the customers from the external point of view, because another thing which would be looking at, I was talking about facilities, sundry facilities like parking lots, security, because understand that is also a concern in these days. If you're talking about urban markets, there's a lot of concern is where will I park my vehicle. So parking, if you're having exclusive parking lots, the security also needs to take care of that in terms of how many people are coming in. That needs also needs to be managed. In some cases, you may have underground parking. There could be layered parking. So a proper management of the parking facilities also needs to be taken up. Though it is not a part of, it's not an important part of your, which is visible. But then yes, if you say parking facilities, the signage is parking facilities. Internally, how you are navigating, how you are creating that, that is also contributes towards atmospherics, right? Going internally, now from those stores you can enter the store. There are shopping malls where they say from the parking places, you can take an elevator and get into the various stores on the mall itself, or you can walk into the certain stores. So they have a well laid out plan. They indicate on the signages, if you want to, these are the, this is the east wing, west wing, right wing. If right from the garage, those notifications are given. So an external atmospheric can also induce you to get into the internal atmospherics. As you enter, you will find this kind of possibilities. As I told you before, that a product display is an integral part of any kind of retail plan. But then, how do you utilize that merchandise? What kind of category do you have to create? How you departmentalize? How you break them into various categories and make it available? If there's a larger kind of a footfall that you are expecting and people's footfalls are very high, maybe you have to give more space. And how to utilize that space effectively so that the customers can actually take care of, can move freely, get the ease of shopping and feel good about it. So you can see, depending upon various product, what is the kind of the arrangement which we call is the next part which we'll be dealing with is the store layout. The store layouts or the particular category layout can significantly vary according to the kind of products that they carry and the kind of customers also who are visiting that store. You've got to understand that as very, very important, because who is walking and what kind of the people are there, the store managers. Many a times you'll find that these are stores which are huge stores, you do not have any kind of people available. So how are there store managers, are there self people group assigned to particular stores to give you more information? Suppose you have read about a particular kind of a scheme which has come in a grocery store and you want to inquire about it. So the store people have to defend that. May not be selling the product, but yes, they have to provide the vital information. Now, some of them could be coming with kids. So how would you take care of the kids within the store? That is also something which can also be managed. So all these things goes into the making of the internal atmosphere. Another part of internal atmospheric is you have to understand what kind of a layout creates the interest in people. Does it make them happy? Does that make them sad? So what happens that internal designers who are used to making this internal atmospherics, they go deeper into understanding what colors excite people. There are some stores who could be using perfume, or you could be using music in order to have better engagement with the customer. These are all part of the internal atmospheric parameters, apart from what kind of products they are showcasing. There are times when you find that, okay, if you go to a South Indian store, they may run classical music, and there is some kind of a chant of a instrumental. But in some cases, you want to go to, let's say, you go to a bar, you cannot have a classical music. You need to be more peppy about it. Over there, the lighting changes, the colors changes, the contrasting atmosphere which creates. It has to be very. So the energy that you feel inside the store can significantly vary according to what you are trying to excite the customer about. You create unique identities of your store by the feel of these kind of things, and this is gets explained in the internal aspect of the atmosphere that needs to be taken care of while you are creating these atmospherics, right? So something we need to be very, very clear about as we go in terms of the internal atmospherics of the retail outlet, right? Going forward, we also look into the kind of layout. I'm not put the layout part here, but the point is, what is the store layout like? If you see the layout here in each of these product categories, the layout is very, very different. What is the idea when you are in your house? If you're asked to arrange your living room, right? It is the most attractive point of your apartment or your house. So you want things to be curated properly, designed well, well lit. It should have air conditioning. It should have a comfortable seating arrangement. If you're having a television in that particular thing, it needs to be properly showcased. So you put a lot of efforts in making the living room a very, very happening place. Same logic applies in terms of the store layout. So when a person comes to the store, right from the time they set foot into the store, what would be his or her experience? If you're attracting kids, what would be the display like? Should it be more colorful? What shades of colors would excite them? You know. So you will find that in terms of apparels, this is a very, very important thing. If you have got products which requires minute examination, how is the lighting there? The lighting may be very, very bright over there, like in case of electronic goods, right? In case of jewelry, until unless you have a proper lighting, it doesn't give you the feel of, okay, something very luxurious. Now the upholstery, the color combination, the physical fixtures which are there, the display units which have been put, you can have, you can say, why should I put quality product, quality stuff into it? But that matters, right? If you are providing very good, well furnished seats to sit in a luxury area like a jewelry, obviously that adds a lot of value to that particular department or that luxury segment, because you are actually living that, and you're ensuring that that luxury is passed on to the people. Then you must have seen customers being treated to a cold drink or a coffee, or being asked for some kind of complimentaries from the retailer. These are very standard procedures. They don't create any unique distinct differentiation, but definitely it gives a feel good factor, makes them feel concerned. The customer concern which is being attended to, and also empathy which we talk about. Because when you look into service quality has various dimensions, out of which empathy, assurance, reliability, right, tangibility, all these things have a parameter which can be used to measure what is the quality of service that is there. If you have people out there, are the people very courteous towards the customer? Are they able to meet the various queries that the, just not only talking about the products but also talking about the layouts, what kind of promos that are going? Suppose I walk into the electronic store, and I would say, what is the kind? Okay, I've heard about in a advertisement which I've seen that you are promoting something something. There's a bundling of, or a price bundling, and what kind of products can be bundled together. Now I may get completely lost when you're walking into a store. So over there the manual intervention is required for you to do that. Second, the store layout also has to ensure that if I'm in a jewelry section, what is the movement of my people? Is it a grid which helps me in the shopping experience, or does that create more irritations? Obviously, we do not want irritations. We want to create a kind of a proper plan of display which allows sufficient amount of people to be within the store at a given point of time, and gives them that liberty to choose the product. If while you are choosing products and you are um, getting very, very uncomfortable while purchasing, then that, does that impact the shopping behavior? Perhaps it does. So we have to understand this, that which section of my store, which department has got a larger footfall, and how do you handle the customer traffic? So the layout of that, in terms of the product display, in terms of the store, needs to be taking care of the movement of the traffic. So under that, we talk in terms of free form of customer traffic. Free form means you are giving the person the, in terms of space, giving a lot of avenues to go and say. Suppose you're talking about grocery and all that, you'll find that they are stacked up in aisles, and you take the trolley and go down the aisles and looking at various product categories. They are displayed right from biscuits to groceries to staples to whatever you want, and it's a proper movement, giving sufficient amount of space to move around, collect, and where people spend their according to their own time. Now, this is very, very important, because that you are engaging with the customer in the right way. Now, in some cases, you could be having very a promotion going on. So there are some impulse purchases. So you are keeping store in store. So those counters have to be placed at a certain in the store where there is more space. People can come and inquire and can convert. So you're creating more impulse kind of a scenario. So that is called a racetrack kind of a grid which you maintain. Everything basically looks into in terms of how the store layout looks into when you're looking at from a retailer's perspective, how to make the store layout convenient for the customer to navigate while making the while searching for the products or the services. Some stores, as I told you before, they could be layered, they could be multiple layers. So how do you ensure that the customer who is coming is properly given instructions, not by if not by the people, at least by the notification. Okay, that okay, this elevator will say the floor one has this, floor two has this. So you are having a proper navigation done with as you are moving into the various parts of the departments given in the store. This ensures less clutter, less congestion, and proper navigation. The people who are there also have to ensure that the security people who are there while the kids are there, they're going through the elevators, they're using the what do you call the elevator when you're going through the lifts, or you're going through the elevators from one store to another. The safety concerns are also there. There have been a lot of mishaps which needs to be taken care of. So safety guardrails have to be put in place to ensure that the store is able to give a proper, not only an atmosphere but also a proper facility to take care of the customer requirements. Apart from that, the fourth point that we talk in terms of is the visual merchandising. Visual merchandising is in America it used to be, in Western world it is very strongly emphasized. Now what does it talk about? When we talk about visual merchandising, we look in terms of what kind of factors that need to be taken into account. It should talk about the product categories. If you walk into any store, for example, a grocery store, you don't need to know. That just be put that visual merchandising may not be that enhanced in case of unorganized. But if you go to an organized retail outlet, in a kirana store, you will not find those kind of visual merchandising. So there is minimal amount of visual merchandising. But as you move to an organized retail, larger stores, big areas, visual merchandisers do take a to play a role, because it gives a more professional touch to the kind of the customer information base. Does it create more interest? Yes, it does create. It may be a kind of visual merchandising where you're talking in terms of how the products are displayed, the mannequins are used. You must have seen Sari Emporiums using this visual merchandising in case of those boxes where they place them, or the display units that you are talking about. And visual merchandising also works towards creating a very what do you call it, the store image, the image of the store, and what kind of people also visit those stores. If you take an example of Raymond's, where they talk in terms of theme displays, making it very professional. The people who are handling the thing, they're very well dressed. They're in particular suited, booted, and the staff is very well trained to handle the customer. It gives you a lot of flexibility in terms of building in confidence among your customers. So within the store, also when you talk about visual merchandising, we talk in terms of the kind of curation that you do in terms of product displays, the information kiosks, all these things, the lighting, everything, which are a part of atmospheric, but it talks about a visually making the merchandise speak for itself. New arrivals, as I was giving you the example, you have a separate counter which talks about new arrivals. It could be on the books, on the apparels, or on the products, right? You create a platform which rotates, people pay for it, right? For that space. When we talk about space management, we'll talk about that, because your merchandise has to be like a silent salesperson. So how do you create more traction? How you create more attraction to the merchandise depends upon how you layer it out, how you curate it to the customers, right? If you look into the more professional setups in this case, we look at the visual display merchandising has very professionals who man the entire visual merchandising experience that they create, both in terms of external visual merchandising and internal visual merchandising. When you're walking on the street and you find a store and there's a window display of product, that's an external visual merchandising that takes care of it. Yes, you can say, okay, these are the products which are coming. So that creates an anxiety. So you have mannequins which can be put over there, which can create a lot of A lot of these brands like Zara and all that, they use it extensively for footwears and all that. They create a lot of interest through the visual merchandising in terms of attracting the customers, right? So wall displays, light fixtures, right, and promotional materials. For example, you are carrying out some kind of promotional exercise. Those posters can also be visually displayed in terms of with a lighted display. You can have neon displays also, which can basically create more attraction with the customers. As the scenario in India, it becomes more and more evolving, as we call it, and you'll find new ways of creating more attraction. From distances, you can, when you talk about the external atmospheric, visual merchandising plays a role in creating external atmospheric. How the logo has to be designed, how the store has to look consistent wherever they are available. Like the McDonald's stores have the golden M and the various characters which are there, that needs to be showcased. Domino's has a different feel altogether, very bright colored. Now, is that the format which is going to be there across? Now, those are things which needs into the visual merchandising parameter. Now, let's move to another important part of store space management, which directly impacts the store profitability. Because we understand we deal here with the inventories and the kind of space that is in the which is optimally used to increase your revenues. Now, for a retailer, it's very, very important that they must be planning retail profits. So ROI becomes a very critical thing, that how do we ensure better return on investment using the same space, right? So there are different space measurement mechanisms which I will talk about as we go along to understand how to utilize that particular space effectively in a particular manner, so that the retail's performance from that particular merchandise can be enhanced, right? At the same time, we also look into space management, also looks into the store management, which I talked about. Space management talks in terms of the store layouts. The layouts is basically is a manifestation of how to do the space management. Because if the layout are not properly done, customer may not feel convenient. Secondly, operational efficiency. For example, you must have seen in retail outlets the payment, the counters. They have it in every counter, but only the ground payment counter may be open. Then now that creates a lot of commotion. Suppose I'm purchasing something on the, it's a multi-layered store. I'm buying something from the third floor. I have to come all the way down to this first floor and make the payment, stand in a queue and get this done. When it could have been easily taken care of at the third floor itself, right? So a lot depends upon how you lay it out and look at it from an operational point of view. How do you allocate resources in terms of manpower, in terms of technology, in terms of security, so that the products which are sold are, you can cut down the pilferages also, because that is also a very important part of your space management or store management. We also look into the layouts, the kind of layouts, as I told you, whether it's a free grid layout, you allow the customer to move freely, or you have a grid kind of a system, or you have to say a racetrack kind of a thing, or you'll see, look into the product categories. It's very, very, there's a jewelry section has a very different kind of a layout compared to a apparel layout, which is again different from, let's say, groceries and staples, right? If you're going to a footwear kind of a counter, it will be very different. That layout will be very different from the others, because for a footwear you need space total, not only to display but also people to try. So trial rooms have to be there, or trial spaces have to be allocated. You can, that's why you can divide them according to your categories and according to the department which is which you would be dealing with. So location of, what are the key things that we look into? The location of various category of products. If you convert them into departments, which department comes where, how do you lay it out? For a family which comes, which products need to be showcased at the ground level, the top level, the third level, the fourth level, whatever the levels are, if it's a multi-layered, or within the store horizontally, if you see, can you divide them into various departments, where you allow different kind of customers to float, and is that particular notification signages are provided when they are entering, so that there is no chaos in the store. So traffic flow management within the store is also a important factor which contributes towards a pleasure in the shopping experience of the customer, which adds on more value. Right now, let's look into the how do you ensure the ROI parameter into this. As I told you before, how intelligently the retailer is managing the space in terms of storing that space, storing that merchandise, storing that product, and ensuring that sales are taking place. A lot depends upon, there are various ways in which you can arrange the products and can ensure that you can sell off more. So what we do is basically a sales or a profit per square or a linear meter or a cubic meter is planned out in order to assess the effectiveness of the retail space in terms of the usage, in terms of profitability, in terms of what is the performance of that particular space. So let's look into one particular thing where we look into where we look into this kind of a thing. So if you see here, this is a square kind of a very simple square kind of a display where you talk in terms of utilizing a particular square meter area where you stock this product within a particular area and work out what would be the sales coming out from that particular area. It's a square meter profit per square meter kind of a scenario. In this is called a linear. Though it is written cubic here, it is actually a linear system. You must have seen in garments, different products are displayed. You must have seen according to the, if you see here, different kind of products here, the similarity. You must have seen in case of soaps, detergents, biscuits. They're all clubbed together in different category, and you find them in that, and you can divide them into eatables, non-eatables, right? You can space it out that way, and these aisles will be displayed. Suppose there's a crockery section, there's a glass section. All glass sections per product utensil would be there. If you want to buy something like a detergent powder, all detergent powder. If you want cosmetics, different kind of things. So different kind of a layout can be done in a linear fashion and can be can be taken up. Going forward, you may also have a cubic meter where you are talking in terms of a apparel. You have to go around it, so you can create the length and the breadth and the depth of the kind of so what you are doing within that square meter or cubic meter, you are ensuring what kind of products can be displayed so as to increase your potential in terms of the purchasing capacity of that particular outlet, right? So if you are talking about a square kind of a thing, you get space. You can have products which can be displayed in a particular manner, and for every square meter, you can actually say what kind of how many products are being showcased, and what is the amount of sales that can take place compared to a linear where you're putting into a linear format. So that this can vary according to the kind of products that you have got. In case of cubic, you may have in between aisles where you can turn around a 360-degree kind of an assessment you can do and can ensure there is a better customer choices available as well as offtake taking. Offtake means consumer conversion. So you can give lot of opportunities in terms of space so that the customer is able to buy those products or depending upon the way it has been curated. So per square meter, the sales can be managed in terms of the retail performance. That is where when you use it as a metric in terms of what square meter of space am I utilizing, whether following a square kind of a format, a linear format or a cubic format to generate more sales. That will be a indicator of the retail performance. Now, if this I told you in a nutshell. So if you can explain this with respect to the entire product range that we are talking about, across the departments that we are talking about, You understand what kind of a logic needs to be put into place from a retailer's perspective so that you can leverage on the store space in terms of performance and can improve your profitability. The sales can be improved, and also from the profitability point of view, you can look at it. Sales point of view, because you look into the square foot area, that what is the sales taking place. So you will try to pack in what kind, if a particular product category is say following a square kind of a square cubic meter per square meter is concerned, it's giving you more returns. I will stock those kind of products to increase the sales there, right? If I look at it holistically, I could be using in some cases the square meter kind of a thing. I could be looking into linear meter as well, or I could look into the cubic meter product displays in order to sell the product. And I can do a category mapping in terms of which particular space is giving me better mileage in terms of reaching out to the customer, ensuring sales, and increasing the revenue within the system. As a result, I could display my products more effectively according to the customer requirements. Now, this you have to map out in terms of what kind of a customer profile is going. For example, if you're coming to a apparel, you must have seen you need more space. You may have a linear format available. You must have seen that when you want to buy any clothes, or you want to have mattresses or some kind of furnishings, you require more space, a linear space to talk about. So for that, that linear space is given in order to ensure that the person is getting more opportunity to see, and that contributes towards conversion. If you give it in a small space, in a let's say square space, you give it, it may not be feasible. They may find it very, very cumbersome. Or you talk in terms of cubic meters, where you have to utilize the depth of your space in terms of giving you complete knowledge of the range of products. For example, shampoos. I want to buy a number of different varieties I want to see. I can use a cubic meter area to give more space to the customer to evaluate the options and then take a call, right? So depending upon the product category, the merchandise, the retail space can be utilized effectively to improve the usage of that space, which contributes towards the sales and the overall profitability of the store. I hope that is very clear to you. Next, we move into the atmospherics when it comes to the e-retailers. How many of you have seen some attractive e-retailing outlets? When I say what do you mean by that, you look into websites, right? I'll give you very good examples. Today, when we talk in terms of placing orders, right? We look into the, let's say, the Mintras and so on and so forth. You will find that Mintra has been able to create a website which is gives you n number of options, whatever you want in terms of the product categories. They have tried to showcase as much as possible. Now, in case of a compared to an offline store, an e-retailer actually can show lot of things, right? And these days, when we're talking about omni-channel options, the same store, which is, say, let's say I'm going to a Bata store, and I have a particular product in mind, and I go to the store, and I find that that is not there. Today, you are able to integrate both. If you tell the store person that, listen, I'm looking for something of a particular code, you can give that this is the product I want. They'll say, okay, sir, we do not have the stocks as of now, but we'll get back to you, and we'll ensure that it is reaching you at your doorstep. Such things have happened. Now, or it could be like you are browsing the net, right? And you find certain product which you like, right? And you want to place the order. Now there's a stock out situation. They would give a, or they will say that the stock we will dispatch it to you within so and so time. Now you say no, I want an express kind of thing. Express, delivery is not available. What you can do? They can say that okay, you can go to the XYZ store, which is an offline store, and can buy it because stocks are available there. It can be integrated to that extent. Now, This is one such example which I gave. It could be many more where you can talk in terms of how e-retailers and retailers have combined. Omni-channel options have been combined to give better services to the customer. Now let's come down to e-retailing. What you do, for example, I give an example of Nike. Nike is available in the stores outside. Also, it is available on the. It is also available in Amazon, the Flipkarts, the Mintras, and the Agio, right? Nykaa Men, and all those kind of things. So these are called affiliates, where you are showcasing those products. So for an e-retailer, they have to find out what kind of affiliate marketing they can do in terms of their vendors with whom they are showcasing. Now, Nike can have their own online stores, can also go into multi-branded stores like your Mintras and all to showcase their products and can be sold. But one interesting thing is that what kind of brands would be made available? That is what is more important. You will find the website gives you a complete picture of all products that is possible or offered by the company. For example, in case of Nike, how many types of footwears are there? It's very interesting to know that footwear has been one of the least researched product in terms of the customer. But we face a lot of problems. If your footwear is not right, you get a lot of problems in terms of inconveniences later on in life. As a youngster, maybe you may not face much of problem, but at a later point, you may face a lot of issues. There's a brand called Happenstance. Happenstance basically looks into how to protect your feet. They calculate the kind of pressure points that is created by your feet. Now this is customized. I don't know what my feet size is, what kind of a pressure do I don't look into those kind of avenues when I'm walking into a store. But this particular thing tells you that okay, if you have something, you can measure it and give it to us, and or we can provide you a kind of a curation which requires a kind of an intervention, maybe a manual intervention or some kind of a text intervention or a kind of a visual intervention where they would see and give you some kind of consulting. Maybe it's customized to that level. Now, whether I need walking shoes, whether I need running shoes, whether I need shoes for the gym, or whether I need for my lifestyle, understand, Nike has been able to curate such large kind of footwear depending upon the requirements of individual customers. Now, how is that possible? It's possible primarily because the company has, first of all, been able to assess the market needs in terms of what kind of, for example, when would you use those footwear, in what circumstances? So obviously they have looked into designing those products in order to fill the gap in the marketplace. As a result, what happens? They are able to find out, oh, for running, this is the kind of shoes which should be required. For walking, this could be required. For a female, for this is the kind of requirement. They could look into colors, they could look into designs, they could look into all sort of possibilities, right? All these can be made available in a website which can be properly, you must have seen that tabs are being created. There's a home page, there's a landing page, and there are various interconnected pages which can be linked to. Highly customized, ease of use in terms of browsing, in terms of understanding. It's a very, very dynamic space. Gone are those days where you can create a static kind of a thing, right? Today you want to, another thing could be like if you want to go for investment options. Even for those products which require personal selling, like investment, you may, or real estate, you can use website. This e-retailing is done by almost all the players in order to create more in the promotional space where you're talking in terms of more interest, attracting and usage. Of course, so website design is the first thing. That how's your landing page looking? How attractive is it? How are you creating more navigation towards your website when you are searching? So search engine optimization has to say that okay, these are the keywords that if you put, my ad comes there. So I provide a link which immediately lands me in the website in the website layout and gives me a complete sneak peek into what the company can provide. Then you look into the product categories and the products SKUs. Now, some stores which could be, they could also be highlighting which stores in which part of the country are storing those kind of products and can make it available. So you can give lot of information to to a consumer, which can be further implemented at the store level, right? And by doing this, what is happening? You are crashing the information search time for the customer, because in the consumer behavior, what does a customer do in terms of behavioral parameters? We know that first of all, need assessment has to be there. Need, once the problem has been identified or a need has been established, the customer could be completely clueless. So e-retailing provides this information search and helps you to fine tune from a very from a very overt set to a consideration set of very few things. It helps you to zero in down to those products or categories or brands which would satisfy them. So they would go, and this website layout, the design itself, the information that you provide, the colors, the schemes, the kind of information that you provide, and the ease of navigating through the website and bringing in more interactivity. Like if you can create chatbots over there who can help you to navigate through the website and give you whatever you are looking for. In case of investments, if you're looking for a home loan, if you're looking into a fixed deposit, if you're looking into buying a car or buying putting into a house loan, everywhere the kind of questions that is required can be curated and can be brought in. Yes, there could be manual intervention required, but the broad level information which can be standardized can be made available through the e-retailing efforts, and that helps the customer tremendously in the consumer decision making process in terms of getting more information. So information search leads to evaluation of alternatives. So when they find out, okay, what kind of alternatives do I have? If your information search, if your website or your e-tailing efforts has been able to justify the information or accurate whatever the customer is looking for in terms of the product information, in terms of their availability, in terms of the price ranges, the whole, or a comparison sometimes with others, right? We were talking about car deals. Wheelsjix.com, they compare. If you give a website bikes, they would compare and take one brand with the other brand. So over there, they give you a lot of information. Same thing happens in the tourism sector when you are talking about, let's say, there are tour like what do you call, makemytrip.com, or where you're talking about etrip.com or whatever. So you'll find that they're able to, or you're talking about SOTC, they can curate themes according to whatever your requirements are. So today's e-tailing efforts looks into making the online space more dynamic to cater to the individual and helps in customization. Customization to certain extent can be done in also in the offline thing, but you can do it at your own pace and according to your requirements if you really create those kind of avenues. So you have to create those buttons to create. For example, if you are having a travel plan, is it a family travel plan? Is it a group travel plan? Is it how many people are going? How will you go? How many days? I don't want to go to a particular place for 10 days. I may go in for 4 days or 5 days. So that's a very flexible kind of a offering that needs to be there. So is your website or your e-retail efforts are able to absorb those kind of flexibilities that the customer is demanding and making it more customizable. Yes, you can have chatbots, but the chatbots will not be able to take care of the flexibilities that you are trying to bring in into the space. And thereby, you are giving information which could be validated, which could be more relevant to the customer experience and will help them in saying taking a decision forward. Because after alternative of evaluation of alternatives, you move towards a decision to buy. So a lot would depend upon how you are curating this thing in a website, so that you are moving them one step ahead in terms of taking a decision in favor of the brand or the service. So That brings us to the end of the session today. So what we can summarize that how atmospheric, which is basically the structural parameters, needs to be planned by a retailer along with the space in order to increase the profitability of the store. The idea is to attract more customers to the store by creating a very engaging kind of an ambience through their store designs, and also it can also be blended with the online retailing efforts. Today, you want to maximize that reach out to the customer in terms of atmospheric, so that that physical evidence that you are planning is ultimately is curated to give you returns and ensuring customer satisfaction, or what we call as the customer delight, right? And also it has a very strong relationship in terms of what people, how many people are coming and what kind of profitability that you are giving depending upon the products that you are showcasing. So with this, we come to the end of today's session. Thank you.